Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Overdunk podcast, your favorite competitive Pokemon Unite podcast. My name is Zoinks, and joined by Bridget and Doomsnacks, we got a full house in for today's episode because there is a whole lot to talk about. Apologies for missing last week. I think all of us were still amidst traveling and everything, and post-event, there was a lot going on. I think Bridget stayed in New Orleans for seemingly forever, so we were there for quite a while, but now we are back. There's a whole lot to talk about. There's new news for next season of the Unite Championship Series. We had a new Pokemon hit the game, so there is a ton to talk about. But first and foremost, we normally start these episodes just by me asking my friends here on the show how their week's been and things like that. But we all got to see each other and hang out with each other at NAIC, so I think a very fun way to start the episode will just be a quick, what was your favorite moment of NAIC? That we got to have over that really fun weekend that we all got to participate in. So, Bridget, we'll start with you. What was your favorite part of the NAIC weekend?
Man, probably when I walked into the bar and Doomsax just started booing me.
Yeah.
That was crazy. He was like, I'm kidding. I'm like, you're booing really loud.
Honesty, it's good.
No, there were actually a lot of big highlights. I loved playing the side event. That was actually a big highlight for me. I had a lot of fun doing that, and I did get to see backstage. That was also a big highlight for me. I felt very cool. So a lot of fun times. Getting to the interview with Spreggles and Zoe, there was a lot of good. I had a good time.
Yeah, we had a good tier list video. That was good. That was really fun.
So true. All
right, Doomsnacks, how about you? What was your favorite moment of NAIC? Oh, I think you tapped your mic. I think you're muted.
Oh, you're muted. You're so muted. There he is.
The whole thing, I really enjoyed. The event was great. All the food is terrific too. So it's hard to miss that. I feel like that's just kind of becomes everybody, at least a high point of everybody's trip.
That's true.
And I feel like we got a lot of hangs, just in general with a lot of different folks. So, that can't be undersold. Love seeing everybody that we talk about every week, but don't necessarily get to see every week.
Yeah, the changeover from these international championships truly being a reflection of like international tournaments has been awesome. And the fact that we get teams from every region was very, very fun. I know, Bridget, you were talking about that was like one major thing you were looking forward to was getting a chance to see international teams. Of course, the Brazil guys.
It was amazing.
Well.
Yeah, I like Baby Mazo. I freaked out. It was awesome. I had a lot of good times.
The same thing for me. I think I'll echo Doomsnacks' last sentiment there. Getting just chance to hang out with so many different people was just an absolute blast. I really enjoyed that. So that might end up being my highlight. I unfortunately didn't get to play in a side event this time, which admittedly a bit of a bummer. I was looking forward to those, but just the timing on Sunday had one too many responsibilities to line up. So next time for real. They are such a blast. But getting to meet and hang out with so many different people, I thought the games were really, really fun. So yeah, it was just a great tournament. It was a lot of fun. So that's our quick little spurt about NAIC. Don't worry, we'll talk about it much more in depth later on in the show. But we got a few things to get through first. First up, we are going to be talking about, and I said we were going to talk about Kirby first, but I'm actually changing my mind. I honestly think we should just talk about the news first. I've waffled about this and changed my mind so many times, but I do think we're going to be talking about the news for 2026 just right here at the top of the show because I think it's really interesting. So without further ado, let's just jump to it. So I'm going to bring it up here on screen. For anybody who doesn't know, Play Pokemon tweeted out today basically some news about every single title and the changes coming for 2026. So TCG and VGC have some changes to how their Swiss format's going to work, some rulings for trading card game ties. Go is getting a few changes to how their travel awarded stipends work, and we're getting a league format. Which is a brand new overhaul. So before we even get into the conversation, I'm just going to read the only piece of information we have on it. I'm just going to read out this paragraph so everyone's kind of starting from the same place. So the Pokemon Unite Championship Series Regional League debut. The Pokemon Unite Championship Series will no longer operate based on championship points and will instead exclusively invite teams through 3 primary methods. All qualified teams will receive travel awards for the 2026 Pokemon World Championships. Already a huge change. Every single team that makes it to Worlds next year will be getting a travel award. So that's already something we'll talk about here in a moment. We don't know how many teams will make it to the World Championships because the last qualifier is a little bit different, but already some big news. Okay, getting into 3 bullet points. Finishing top 2 in a Pokemon Unite regional league will qualify you for Worlds. Winning AOS Cup at EUIC, the Asia Champions League, or the final stretch NAIC, so that all will stay the same. However, I did see some people from Japan talking about how it's a soft confirmation that ACL will be coming back next year, since that technically hasn't happened yet, so something there as well. The third one, winning a Pokemon... There's a typo there, saying winning AA, but winning a Pokemon Unite Open Last Chance Qualifier. That term is kind of ambiguous. The placement of it, the timing, and how it's described, I'm just, like, there's nothing... These are regional championships. Like, that's what it is. Like, they're gonna have regional tournaments at the end to also qualify teams from regions. I can basically guarantee it. Okay, final thing. Let's break down Pokemon Unite regional leagues. The 2026 Pokemon Unite Championship Series is introducing 3 8-team leagues encompassing North America, Europe, and Latin America. So there's no Latin America South, no Latin America North, no Brazil. Instead, they are all in one league under Latin America. These regional leagues will feature regular round-robin play over a number of weeks, so undetermined still, with a promotion and relegation system via an open qualifier tournaments. In the final paragraph, several top teams from each rating zone will initially be invited to participate in their respective regional league. So some orgs or some teams who have been very good in these regions for quite some time, it's pretty safe to assume teams like Luminosity Gaming or Nouns Esports will likely already get this invite, but will participate in their respective regional league. As part of this change, monthly cups will no longer be a part of the Pokemon Unite Championship Series in 2026. Stay tuned for more details following the conclusion of the World Championships. Okay, big burst of talking in that one. Let's just get initial reactions out from everybody. Deuce, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It's nice to see something new. You know, that's one thing that I can at least be confident in, is that Pokemon Unite specifically has done a very good job changing year in and year out to try and make the competitive scene stronger. You know, I think we can say sometimes it's felt like a miss, sometimes it's felt like a great step in the right direction. I think this is a very good switch up. And the most exciting thing to me is Pokemon has stepped in, at least in Japan and every region, to entice orgs to join by helping alleviate the financial responsibilities it would take to get teams together, right? So they incentivize and they kind of take out...
I think you muted yourself.
We lost him. He was on a roll.
All right. Well, for now, Bridget, let's just jump into your thoughts.
Okay.
We'll get your first impressions, and then we'll come back to Deuce next.
Yeah, like he just needs to gather himself. Yeah, my initial thought was like, wow, I guess they liked how ACL went because to me, I heard leagues and I was like, wow, okay, we are doubling down on the league thing, which I did enjoy about ACL. It was kind of fun to watch. For them it was the same 8 teams the entire time. Like they were locked. They didn't switch them in and out.
Yeah, no promotion and relegation system. Yeah,
so I'm curious if they will implement that in the ACL leagues, but I am very, very intrigued by the promotion and relegation system. I mean, to me it seems like it will be good. I'm just curious to how they're going to implement it, but I actually really like this. The more I think about it, as a viewer, I really like it. And I do feel like it's a bit more rewarding for the players, especially on like the upper echelon teams, like obviously top 8, even like top 16 teams. Yeah. I think this is really incentivizing to them. So I've seen mostly positive feedback, I feel like, from like Twitter posts and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm overall optimistic, but I am a bit of an optimist. So
yeah, that's usually my job here on the podcast.
I know.
I will start by saying I am optimistic. I think this is overall a good change. However, I might be the most 50-50 on it, and I'll bring out my reasons here in a moment. Deuce, next, you back?
I am. I had to jump on mobile. There's a power surge. My house cut off
No.
everything pretty much.
OMG.
Oh
There's
no.
just no good fortunes here. Every time I try and make an episode, it just collapses under me.
It's so
I'm just
cursed.
an absolute plague.
Oh no. Okay, well, at the very least, let's get your thoughts. I believe you were talking about how this is a good format for orgs, incentivizing them to pick up players.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And the way it's incentivized, or at least protects the organizations that are willing.
So close.
Oh no, we lost it one more time.
I know, I feel so bad.
It's all right. We might just have to get his thoughts sent in to us remotely, unfortunately. But
Poor
all right.
Snacks.
Poor Snacks. Sorry. R.I.P. to Snacks. Okay. But yeah, I think he's absolutely correct. This is going to incentivize orgs to invest in teams who they like and players who they think they can trust. I think Doomstack's very aligned with Spraggles on this matter. He put out a really cool tweet about this, just talking about if you were a player in Pokemon Unite, there are only going to be a very few players that are picked up by organizations based on raw talent alone. If you are an organization, you are definitely looking into a lot of different things. How marketable is a player? How easy do they get along with other players in the community? Like, can I put them with anybody? Is this going to be a very specific player that we have to work with, etc., etc.? So very interesting stuff there. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Okay, first and foremost, I want to talk about a couple of things that are not listed in this regional league debut post. First, you already talked about it, Bridget. We do not know how the relegation and open qualifier tournaments are going to work. The only one we can kind of guess at the most is the open last chance qualifier, which to me on paper just sounds like regionals. The other thing that we don't know how is going to operate is how many spots are at Worlds. We can count them up here, a couple of them, right? We have the AOS Cup winner, Final Stretch winner, Asia Champions League winner, 2 from each of the 3 leagues. That's 6 teams in total. We just don't know how many are going to end up being from the Open Last Chance qualifier. It'd be pretty difficult to believe it'll be the same amount as last year, but we'll see. We'll see how many actually make their way there. Doopsnacks, I see you're back. Are you back?
I have no idea. You tell me.
Yeah, you are. You sound even better than before.
Okay. Real quick, we're gonna burn through it before I get house falls down around me again.
Yes.
I think it's super exciting. I do think there's a lot of good teams out there that can entice orgs to jump on ship. And the biggest thing that people are like, well, orgs aren't going to spend money on a game like this. Pokemon, the way they got every Eastern region to have every league have organizations behind every single team. It wasn't just Japan, like I'm seeing in the chat for ACL. It is. Well, yes, exactly. Orgs are required, like ACL. It's what's going to happen. They're not just going to let somebody walk in because they want to entice organizations, right? So they're going to start there, and they're going to help subsidize the cost of having a team because that's where they're shuffling their money around to rather than having all of these cups and production to those. They're going to switch up to lighter lift on what the league format kind of is. So all in all, I think it's a good look. I think it's definitely worth at least the try for 1 year without a doubt.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a couple of things there that I think are still unsure about. One, I don't know if every single team in the 8-team league will need to be a org backed team just because of how these open qualifiers and relegation tournaments are supposedly supposed to work. So we'll see. I don't know. It could be initially all 8 teams are, and then if a team gets relegated, then an unsponsored team can make it in. I don't know. But we'll see. That's still kind of undetermined. But yeah, I think initially there'll be as many as they possibly can. They could possibly get. But yeah, we'll see. Oh, I like Landhead saying an org wish list. Yeah, we'll have to talk about some orgs that we'd like to see involved in these. That'd be really fun. But I think there's a decent amount already that I mean, like, we gotta get immediately. Of course, Interclaps Random Esports has gotta be. It's gotta be considered.
That was such a legendary.
Yeah, what a throwback. I like it a lot. Okay, so those are just kind of the things that we were missing. I think, Bridget, you already mentioned a few of the positives. As a viewer, this is incredible. It allows anybody in esports endemic to look at the game and find something that they could, they like this team from another game, great, they could latch onto that. As somebody who's already been in Unite, it's going to be a lot easier to follow a team throughout the season in a league format instead of just checking in on their performance every single month, because who knows where it'll end up. Now there is going to be a weekly tournament in a round robin play over a number of weeks. We don't know how many. So that is really fantastic. And I think the other big thing that you mentioned too is that like top level players are going to be rewarded quite a bit, which has been a complaint by quite a few of the top level players in this game. Listen, Unite's prize money was pretty strong in its first debut, but it never really went up. And the money kind of had to get moved around to make multiple of these IC tournaments happen. This is a chance for like top level players to consistently get rewarded by playing in this league. That's really cool. So I'm excited for all of those things. The negatives, I'll go kind of region by region. Randomly, I think Europe is by far the most benefited from this system, which I think is really funny. One, the ping across EU is not too bad to play from different parts of EU. I'm sure if I talk to more EU players, they might disagree with me on certain points. But at the very least, the EU teams playing against each other will have consistent ping likely. And their open tournaments this last year did not have great participation numbers already. So cutting that down to only 8 teams in league consistently, it's just impacting less players. Certainly they had more than just 8, but it's impacting less players. Which leads me into why it hurts a little bit for North America. We're one of the only regions outside of Japan and India and China that had solid participation numbers. Not as good as years past, but solid. Still hitting 70 for a lot of these months. That is going to change drastically. Now these teams will only have, well, for sure one. Who knows how these relegation tournaments work throughout the season. So they'll have the open last chance qualifier, and if they can make it to NAIC, that's the other option. So it's a big lack. A lot of teams won't have the chance to play the game as often, at least in a tournament setting. That can be dealt with in grassroots formats. It's different. So that's one thing. And then LATAM. LATAM players have talked forever, specifically players from Brazil, at how brutal ping can be from Brazil to LATAM South players and Brazil to LATAM North and vice versa, everywhere. They're combining them all into one league. I hope there is a distinct plan to try to have some kind of parity where these teams, if it is such a big encompassing region of gameplay, they can make that work. That's my big hesitation when it comes to LATAM. I think that's a little worrisome. I'm glad there's still LAIC as a part of the season. That'll be really great. But still, it is a big question mark. So those are the kind of like my big hesitations. It's like, well, we're going from a format that really incentivized, or we tried as hard as we could to incentivize teams to sign up for monthlies and play. You know, they added cash to those tournaments and everything. Now we're pivoting very hard to supporting the top level players and investing in that, which, you know, I don't think there's necessarily a bad and a good answer. It is just a big change in direction, which if it works, it's going to be awesome. I am worried about a lot of players that participate in UCS regularly just dropping off. That's like my biggest concern. So hopefully grassroots steps up like crazy. I will admit, I've already kind of gone into my own little self-planning things about what potentially the Overdunk podcast or Unite mics could try to do stuff with there. And there's great organizations like Engage and Underdunk that are trying to participate in cool stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, those are the trepidations I have. Let's kind of go around with that a little bit. Bridget, how about you? Do you have anything that like is kind of worrisome about this new format for you?
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like it's overall an improvement from this past year's format. I just feel like championship points were like, I don't know, it just wasn't incentivizing enough for teams to like stick together, and this feels much more valuable. I mean, if you get top 2 in the league, you go to Worlds. Like that feels pretty good to me. But I feel like my biggest concern about this is like the number of teams that will go to Worlds, because I think it was Heketh on Twitter did kind of the math on like how many teams they're estimating based off of this information and like some assumptions on how the East will go, but yeah, it will definitely be not as big of a behemoth as this this one we have coming up. So
Right.
I don't know how I feel about that, I guess, but all of them getting travel awards is hype. Like, not having to
Yes.
worry about the travel award is pretty cool, because it does feel like that is kind of a big part of qualifying. It's like, oh, you qualified, but you don't have the travel award. And that is kind of a really tough, I feel like, on a lot of these teams to
Yeah.
get to wherever Worlds is going to be held. I guess we already know it's going to be in San Francisco next year. So
Right.
I do love that. My other kind of like little notes on it, I guess, are what's going on with OCE. Like, they kind
Yeah.
of lit up, I feel like, at NAIC. Like, they're kind of showing up, and I am a little worried about, I don't know, what this means for them, because I mean, ping is an issue. Like, they can't really like group them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
OC's
I
not
just don't
playing in any
know.
of those leagues. Like I've talked about how Brazil to LATAM South would not be is going to be
Right.
a difficulty. I don't think they could manage that. Well, I don't know. OC not being listed in any of these leagues is worrisome. If I had to guess, I think they might be in the Asian circuit. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my only like potential thought
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But I just hope there is support for them, because the OC, like, I got to meet some of the Daybreak guys at NAIC, and everyone's so nice. It's just like such a good community, and I'm like, we need them.
Well, you met
So-
the entire community, so
Well, period. But I like them. They're so nice.
Yeah.
Let them stick around. So really crossing my fingers for some OCE support. But overall, I'm excited that our, like, the West circuit is now going to be more similar to like the Eastern circuit.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
that
true.
is very exciting to me. Like, I think that is inherently like very cool and interesting. I guess on the topic of OCE, I wonder how China will go in terms of, are they getting a league?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. That's
no,
a
I
whole
think they're going
other-
to be their own
Yeah.
thing again.
As long as they keep
Yeah.
getting 1,000 teams to sign up for their tournaments, I think they can do whatever they want.
Okay, period.
They'll set up their own thing and move along. Yeah, I see a few people mentioning in chat, and people who I kind of assumed would have this perspective, but like Kyle's been talking about it, Soph's talking about it as well. Just like, I mean, this is a time that grassroots organizations and tournaments can step up and be a really cool platform for teams to get practice and still create an awesome community where there's still a competitive community outside of the regional league. It also, they kind of need to. Like, this is going to be a, like, they need to be signing up, stepping up and creating these communities, these really great places that incentivize just people to show up for these events. Now, trickle-down effects can be real, you know, like they can exist, especially when we get org involvement in some ways. There's more attention to the community in general, which means the chance, I'm not saying it's a determined factor, of sponsorships or, you know, things like that appearing, you know, like maybe all of a sudden, we'll say like Republic of Gamers, the monitor company or whatever, starts seeing like, oh, there's a lot of orgs like showing up in NAEU. Maybe like we'll become a sponsor for an event for somebody, because maybe Pokemon doesn't want us to be on the official one, but maybe we could support this like really popular grassroots one or something. You know what I mean? Like, those opportunities are more likely now with a system like this, which might be a glass half full kind of take in this situation. But I really hope that we get a little bit more lifeblood in that spot, because I do think there's some really cool, like, I still think Overdunk is a really awesome operating community right now. And in my mind, it's flourishing. It's doing great. I just would love to see it do even better. And there's a chance that with this format, it could do even better, which is great. So that is that's going to be my final thought on it. Do either of you two have any more final thoughts on the regional league with the limited information that we have at this point in time?
Oh, go ahead, Bridge.
I was just gonna say, I'm definitely interested to learn more about the relegation system, and I think it's funny that Mike in chat clocked you for still having our topic as intro.
I'm so bad at this already. Yeah, league talk. All right, there we go.
There we go.
Nailed it.
There we go.
Mike. All right. Fair enough. All right, cool. Dupes next, how about you?
Yeah, I want to see the relegation stuff as well. That
Mhm.
is truly how you foster, I think, or at least from our standpoint right now, how you foster that tier 2 ecosystem that Soph was talking about. Um, as far as just OC real quick, there is a real world that every region that's dedicated to have one spot will just have a regional finals right at the end. I think Zoinks, you mentioned that.
Mhm.
So there's a real possibility that LCQ is just their region finals,
Mhm.
um, for the lack of a better term. So
Mhm.
that's how you get those teams in there. Um, I'm less concerned about people being excited to play because I think visibility overall being higher will help entice people. I
Yeah.
also think each region right now, maybe except for EU, has like 8 teams that are like org sponsorable that are safe to sponsor. To help grow. And then when you see, I'll use ignorance as example because we were talking about it in the Overdunk
Yep.
chat, just like on Discord. Like, are they the winningest? No, but they do perform well enough. They have been together for a very long time. There's a safety, like a safe factor there by like getting them involved. Or getting or as an org involved with them, but also what does maybe a few bucks every month in those kids' pockets do for how much they can play,
Mhm.
how their commitment level might change, things of that nature too. So I think it's going to be a good way to figure out how sustainable Unite can be as a whole or across the globe. Because in the East, it does pretty well, and I think we're the ones lagging behind. So this might be one of those shots in the arm that we need. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
No, I think it's a really
Period.
good point. And you reminded me, actually, somebody posted in chat, it might have been Kello, just asking kind of who the Bucks stops with when it comes to building a team. So technically, I guess the actual technical term is the orgs who decide who to sign and sponsor and back. So that is technically how it ends up happening. As I've been a fan of quite a few like smaller tier esports, I guess, in my lifetime, what usually the most common thing ends up happening is orgs take a look at kind of the field of players. They notice a couple of people, maybe they ask like community members or whatever it is. Oftentimes, it ends up they find a player and they kind of start asking that player a team they'd want to play around with. That is like one of the most common situations that ends up happening. And that's how teams end up getting built. At the end of the day, a lot of these orgs might be new. They have not seen this community. The players who have been playing in this space for 4 to 5 years at this point will have the best idea of how to make a winning team, most likely. So that ends up being the safer bet. So that is usually how things end up going. We are going to see roster mania on levels of roster mania I think we've never seen going into next season, which for a podcast's sake, pretty hype. So I cannot wait.
Pretty hype.
I cannot wait to start talking about like, all right, rumors of this roster of 5 making a league team, and they're moving to LATAM. That'd be a lot of fun.
They're moving to LATAM.
We'll see. But okay, that is our talk about next season and the league and all things like that. I'm sure as more information starts coming out, probably around the World Championships and things like that, we'll be talking about this more and more and more because it's huge news. And at the end of the day, more orgs, bigger esport, who knows? I'm excited about it. So I think Jupesnanks, you've said it for a long time. The best part of this game has been the competitive scene and the championship series. And this is Play Pokemon investing into that in a gigantic way. So let's go. Let's get it done. Cannot wait. Let's move on to our next topic, though. Before we start talking about NAIC and the PJCS, we got a new Pokemon added to the game. So let's talk about it. We have Alcremie dropping into... I gotta spell it correctly. We have Alcremie
close.
being added to our game. A brand new support, a healing support. I think League loves to call those enchanters. But we have yet another one added to the game. We've had a lot of, Psyduck, now Alcremie, and then of course Latios pretty soon. We're getting support's dumped upon us. It's pretty exciting. But Bridget, you and Doopsticks, you two are the resident support players. So Bridget, we'll start with you. Initial thoughts on Alcremie.
Well, I was a little worried for Doomsnax to be on this episode because I think we're going to have opposing opinions.
Yes.
Which will be divisive. But I love her. I haven't gotten to play her very much, but that's quite literally all I've played this season. I have only played Decorate and Dazzling Gleam. Couldn't tell you how the other moveset works at all. I'm just having too much fun doing that one. So I am enjoying Alcremie. So
I like it.
I'm pretty pro. She's so small. I love her.
She is so small. All right,
So
Doopsnax, initial thoughts on Alcremie.
I actually enjoy playing it too. I do like Decorate myself. That being said, I think that Alcremie compared to the other supports is just not strong enough. Because while we clamor for supports all the time, supports are kind of one of the strongest classes in the game. Just across its Pokemon, right? Just like averaged out strength power level across the Pokemon is a lot higher than the other classes.
A lot of good spots on tier lists for supports, for sure.
So from that standpoint is where it loses for me, but not because I don't enjoy playing it. I think the play style is a lot of fun. So I don't want to get it twisted. I do enjoy the Pokemon. I did enjoy playing the Pokemon as well. I just, if I'm like when I was playing with Ignorance, they were like, "You're not playing Alcremie. We need something."
Dang. Ignorance was telling you no, it's bad, man.
Yeah, Ignorance was telling you to play support Darkrai instead.
Yeah, they're like, please put the light bulb on anything else.
Correct. So, all in all, that's kind of that's my stance. I do think it's a lot of fun. I just think it needs to be tuned up to really be able to jump in the mix and shake up what we've already got going on.
Okay, very, very cool. Yeah, I'm seeing some of the stats of some people talking about it. It is hurting a little bit in the stat department, but that is why we do this, everybody. It is time for another new release report card. If this is
time.
I need to do an intro, like a pre-record intro for the report card segments. If you are tuning into this podcast for the first time in a while, you may have not known this year we've been giving every release into Unite a report card. And with this report card, at the end of the year, we're going to give Unite a GPA. In total. Don't ask us how we're going to figure out the Hundo Burger level rating. We have not sorted that problem out quite yet. But okay. We rate this Pokemon a few different things. So for audio listeners, we rate the new Pokemon on fun, how balanced we think the Pokemon is, the flavor and theme, which is going to be kind of a double entendre with Alcremie, how viable we think the Pokemon is for solo queue, how viable we think it is for competitive play, and then we give it a general Hundo Burger. 5 Hundo Burgers out of 5 Hundo Burgers is the top score you can get. No one has yet to beat that. So, without further ado, let's start with fun. How fun is it to play Alcremie? Hearing both of your sentiments around the Pokemon, it sounds like this might be one of its best categories. So, what are we thinking? Doopsnax, maybe we'll start with you. Give me like an initial, remember this is letter grade. We max it at A+. So, what do you think?
I'll give it a B+. I'll give it a solid B+.
Wow, okay, that's pretty good considering what we were talking about before. How are you feeling about it, Bridget?
Doopsnax is such a hater. I would give it a solid A. I've been like I'm like, I want to play Alcremie. Like,
I love how I gave it a B+ and I'm a hater.
Yeah, that's hater.
That's
hateful.
crazy.
It's hateful to me.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. This is so tough. Bridget, I'm so sorry. I feel like I am going to pivot to Doopsnax's opinion here. I do think this thing ends up being in that B+ range. I think it has one really fun move, and the rest are just, feel a little too typical. I think the Dazzling Gleam is a really good time. Other than that, so I think we're going to give this a B+. So still a solid grade, but not, not the best we've ever seen. Okay. Balance level, though. Bridget, we'll start with you. We can get your letter grade to begin with. What are we thinking for balance level?
So we give it a high grade if we think it's like perfectly balanced, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to
A
always
plus would be
reset.
like wow, this is really, really good, but it's not broken, it's not overpowered, but it doesn't feel bad to play. So that's where we would feel.
I do overall agree that she is begging for a buff.
Okay. B for buff.
Oh, I was even thinking like a C. Like I think it's pretty like
Whoa.
underwhelming.
Okay.
As like I mean, really it's like the ult, like compared to like
Yeah.
a Hoopa ult, like a Blissey ult, like it's just like
And you can't
if
even
the
eject
other
well in it, right? Like you're just stuck.
I
there.
haven't tried, but I would be surprised if you could, I guess.
Yeah.
So I will try. But I don't know. I feel like if once people find out you just hit Alcremie and it's ult, it's over. You know?
Yeah.
So I've only played the fun moveset. I have not even tried the other ones. So I do agree with you guys on that.
Okay. All right. C has been stated. Dupes, next how you feeling about a C grade for?
That's right where I was at. What I was gonna say. I was gonna say C or C minus, just because I want supports to get gassed up, so it can at least be a contender. So that's what I'm gonna go with as well.
All right. C makes sense. You know what's one fun change I think for its Unite move could be if it doesn't need to stand on top of it. If you
it
like
just sets the cake.
You just
if
build
you
the
just
cake.
built the cake and then could walk away. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Ooh.
I'd be,
I agree.
maybe too strong. I don't know. Also, huge shout out. Thank you so much, Overlord, for the raid. I hope you had a good solo queue stream, my friend. And congratulations on winning an AIC. Okay.
Congratulations on winning every IC.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Okay, let's jump to the next category. Alcremie in how well we think it plays off the flavor and theme of this Pokemon. And I'll be the first one to jump in here, and I am not doing it just because it is funny that it is a cake and sweet treat Pokemon. I think this might be potentially A+. Like, decorate feels correct. You know, you're putting on a little shield, it's shooting off little pieces of whipped cream. You're throwing, like, literal sweet treats onto the ground. I don't know. When you play Alcremie, it feels like you're playing Alcremie. It just, I don't know. I think they crushed it there. So I would give it an A+. Maybe even an A. I will stick at A, though. I think there could have been some more fun visual effects. So I'll stay with A. Deuce next. Thoughts on the flavor theme grade I've given them?
Yep, I'm right there with you. I
Cool.
think it feels very in tune. So I'm gonna say A.
Bridget?
Yeah, the only thing that would have made it A+ for me is if they incorporated like the spinning evolution somehow.
Oh,
Because in the
yeah.
main games, you have to like spin with your Milcery to like shake up the milk and make the cream.
That'd be awesome.
So that was copium, but
Okay.
that would have made it A+ for me.
All right, fair enough. We'll keep it a flavor theme. We'll keep it a flavor theme. I like it a lot. Okay. Ooh. Now the rest of these might be tough for Alcremie to move through. Solo queue viability. Oh man.
I mean, D. It's miserable.
Yeah, it's
I'm not having that bad of a time. I'm an ultra. So maybe my opinion is
hey,
varied.
you know, you've had a good time. We'll put a D+ there.
Oh, thanks,
We'll
guys.
We'll give it the D+. I don't know. It feels tough to get the wins on this Pokemon. Honestly, can someone pull up the API on it by chance? I'm curious how the win rate of that Pokemon has been doing. We'll see. But yeah, I honestly think solo queue viability D+. I think someone could make an argument for C, but it's tough out here for the cake. Okay, we didn't see it very much, if at all, at the PJCS tournament. We might have seen it a tiny bit. I forget now.
I think maybe once.
Yeah, maybe once. So I think competitively, we're probably sticking around the same thing, right?
Yeah, I am not seeing much hullabaloo for.
Okay. Dang, we're gonna give it the double D+. I think. Yeah,
That's brutal.
we knew it'd be tough. We knew it'd be tough out here. But we're just
Alcremie win rate is 48.22%. Pretty
48.
low.
That's pretty
Probably
low.
like bottom 15.
Mm-hmm. Dang.
Not great.
No
It's like
great.
almost bottom 10. Yeah, actually.
Is
Sorry,
there
guys.
a world where it's more competitively viable than it is solo queue, though?
I mean,
It's just there's so
you'd
many
have
better
to
supports
ban
you
out
can take.
everything, right? You have to
But
ban
I'll
out
say
all the
it
powerful
just-
supports, and then everybody else just goes, "Cool, I'll take Suicune," and then you're like, "Oh,
I know.
great."
Yeah. Yeah, if I don't know. Yeah, and I see Smib saying Icy Wind decorate would go crazy. It's just like just go Helping Hand Blissey then at that point. Like
Or
yeah.
Trick, yeah. I guess Trick doesn't. Well, whatever.
Yeah. And I'm sticking to my belief that they nerfed Trick for this, by the way.
I think you're right. Ever since you told me that, I've been thinking about it, and I think you're right.
Okay, let's move on to Hundo Burger. We wanted this one to be a short segment. So, Alcremie as a support. How many Hundo Burgers out of 5? It does kind of crush it in the flavor category. It is pretty fun. Could be better. However, it just feels weak overall. So, in terms of Hundo Burgers, is this going to be a 2, a 3? We do not have the ability to do halves. So, keep that in mind.
If we don't have the ability to do halves, I'm going 2.
All right, Bridget.
I know. For me personally, it's like at least a 3. I love
Okay.
her.
This
like,
one,
truly.
I'm going to join on your side. I do think it's a 3 because
Yeah!
I think this is one of those moments where in a patch or two, this thing's gonna be sick, and so I'm going to preemptively give it an extra Hundo Burger. So we will keep
Oh, come
Alcremies at
on.
Hundo Burger.
Yeah,
What
get
a wiener.
owned, Get
What a
owned.
Cheddarworst play.
Well, that is where we are ending up. There it is, Alcremie's report card. The newest support added to Pokemon Unite. We'll be doing the next ones with Latios and Latias, which is actually kind of crazy. Yeah, no halves.
Whoa.
I don't know how to cut out just only half of the picture in my photo editing software. It's lame that that's the reason, but it's true. So, all right. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching our report card. Let's get into our next topic, which
Sure.
is going to be the North America International Championships, which, of course, just concluded in New Orleans. All 3 of us got the chance to be there. All 3 of us got the chance to be on stage. Shut up, Bridget's tour, which, which of course was really, really fun. And Luminosity Gaming take the entire tournament, making history in Pokemon all across every Pokemon game for a few hours by being the first Pokemon players ever to win all 3 international championships in the same season.
The fact that it only lasts a couple hours is maybe the craziest thing of all of this.
It is.
Because it's like, it's never been sniffed before, and then twice in one day.
It's
Dude,
so
that
crazy.
TCG kid is nuts.
He's
I'm
so good.
scared of
Yes.
him. I'm
Yep.
scared of him.
Yeah.
So
Designed
he's
by
very
2Z
good.
Esports, so
Yes,
Shout out.
iconic.
That's kind of wild. But anyway, yeah, he is so good at the game. And he's gonna be in seniors like for another year, I think, by the way, which is
Yeah.
scary to think about. But anyway.
Scary if you're a senior, yeah.
Scary if you're
oh,
senior, yeah.
the guy that just destroyed everybody? Oh, it's still here. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm gonna do it again.
This was uniquely a crazy event for TCG storylines, by the way, for everybody who was there and watched this trading card game, even tangentially. Like, they had siblings play each other in the junior finals,
Oh,
which you will see on Pokemon marketing for years to come, by the way. Just the cutest 2 kids. I was backstage. I think we were getting set up for... Oh, I forget what it was, but I was backstage at that moment before they went on to play against each other, and they were like running around chasing each other, and their poor dad was like trying to get them to chill out. It was so funny. Like, they were just having a good time through and through. Like, it was the best. So that was one of the most adorable things. And then of course Gabriel making history in the trading card game right after, which very, very funny. But either way, very interesting tournament. We talked a lot about storylines leading up to this event in terms of that final World Championship spot to be taken was taken by Team Revelation from North America. Obviously, it was very likely that an NA team would be taking it. I think a lot of people predicted Revelation to be the team that would end up getting that spot. Bit of a heartbreaker for a few teams who did make the trip out. We got that travel award, of course. DreamHack Esports, Daybreak being the 2 major ones that we talked a lot about before the event, but fortunately not going to be at Worlds this year, which a lot of absent names at the World Championships this upcoming year. No Fennel, no Zora Tigers Gaming, no Baby Mazo. I mean, what a crazy trifecta that won't be there. It's it's kind of crazy. But anyway, let's just jump into the general look at it. I'm gonna pull up the group stage first here. Here we go. Okay, here is the group stage of the event. No surprise, Luminosity Gaming cleaning up their group 4-0, but everything other than that, I don't think there were too many surprises. In this one, we talked about a few different groups of death that we thought, but Bridget, I know you were in the crowd watching absolutely as many of these games as you possibly could, even over there at the B stage or like the open play area, watching some of those matches. So anything stand out to you about the group stage?
Man, I mean, it was a pretty exciting day. I do agree. There was nothing overall too crazy. The craziest things for me, I feel like, was Daybreak turning it out for sure.
Mhm.
Like, they were really, really, really fun to watch in Tier 4.
Totally.
And then I have to shout out the I Hardly Know Her and Nouns Esports set.
Yeah.
Like, that set is like so it was so like special. I really can't like describe it. It like was not like any other match on stage the entire weekend. It was just like fun, and like the kids on I Hardly Know Her were just like so silly, and like I don't know, like Nouns was obviously like winning, and at the last game they're like crossing their fingers, they're like please 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 after they just like lost. I don't know, it was just really special. I like encourage you guys to like go back and watch it on broadcast, because it was just like, I don't know, I feel like a good representation of what our game can be, and it was very cute.
Totally.
But I had a lot of fun at the B stage for sure. It was cool, like getting to like, I don't know, just like watch all of the games going on over there and like keep up with all of the groups happening at once. But yeah, it was a really fun first day.
Yeah, multiple people I talked to in the venue. I was like, at the end of day one, I was asking, I was like, what was your favorite match? Blah, blah. Almost every single person I asked said the Hardly Know Her versus Nouns match. One of the best moments of that one too is finally they knock out Inder when he's on like Comfey or something, and the crowd loses it. Like, they go crazy, which was I was in the green room and people were like, wow, what are people popping off for? And I'm like, I don't know, actually, because of what match was on stage. And then I pulled up the stream, which is obviously a little bit delayed than the live venue feed, and it was like, oh, yep, there it is.
It was so fun. Even like Kyle, sweet Kyle, is in chat. Like, anytime he hit a snipe shot, we were like, yeah! Like, it was, I don't know, it was just seriously like so like joyful. Like everyone was like so happy. Like, I don't know, I think Nouns had just like lost the set prior, so I'm sure they were maybe like in their heads a little bit. It was like very adorable to see them all kind of just like have fun. Like, Tuna's like full clearing jungle as Comfey first rotation.
That's
like,
right. Forgot about the jungle Comfey. That's right.
Oh my god. Bruv is playing Luca. You know, like they were having, it was just so fun. I really can't like get over it. It was just so good.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I think it's a really good representation of what our community can be. You know what I mean? We can have fun and just make it fun on stage. I think the Hardly Know Her members would say this, but I think they all said that Nouns was just like so cool after the game and everything. You know, like they didn't feel like, you know, sometimes you pay a top level team and you feel kind of bad about it or whatever. And apparently everybody was really good. So yeah. How about you, Dupes? Next, any shout outs from the group stage from the day number one?
What was the last set of the day? It's the one I cast, and it was like probably the most outside of obviously Nouns Hardly Know Her, is the most like straight up banger set of we'll say what traditional Pokemon Unite, I think is the word.
It was T3 Dream Max, right?
Ooh.
Yes.
That match was insane. It was so good.
That was a banger. So I'll highlight that because the other one, it's so evidently Nouns Hardly Know Her. That,
you casted both of those, by the way. So well done.
So the biggest issue with the Nouns Hardly Know Her, and really our first match too, is Spraggles and I like start the day, cast just an absolute stomp, and we're like, we looked at each other and I was like, dude, how are we gonna get any momentum here? And then we found out what our next match was, and we looked at each other and was like, okay, let's just have fun with this. Let's just like you can't play it serious. We know what's going on. Like let's just have fun and have the fun that the players are clearly having as well.
Yeah.
After that, we looked at it was T3 DreamHack. We looked at each other was like, okay.
Now we lock in.
What are we going to do? Because we've essentially not cast Pokemon Unite for 8 hours now. So that was so that was kind of like the biggest hurdle of the day. And if that's the biggest hurdle you have to contend with, I think that's a pretty darn good day.
Yeah, it was that T3 DreamHack game. We were all saying it too because also every game we had on stream was a 2-0, which is like, wow, it was a record pace day for Pokemon Unite at an in-person event. NAIC usually does tend to be our least tech issue riddled tournament, so that was good. But either way, it was like, okay, we needed a 2-1. Thank goodness that one delivered. It was exciting, and then obviously we're like, oh, okay, T3 got maybe a little bit of momentum going into day 2, so that was exciting. But
it was nice to cast that one going into the second day because the second day had a bunch of 2-0s as well. However, they were like hyper competitive 2-0s, right? For the most part, so that was really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. Let's get into day 2. So, day 2, of course, anybody can see here on the screen. Like we already mentioned, Luminosity. Let's see if I can zoom in. It's like really tiny on this overview, isn't it? Let's see how big I can make this. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, cool. So, Bees taking down Ignorance in that round 1, I think was a pretty big surprise to a lot of people, myself included. That was pretty crazy. Stamina Esports taking down Version 1 2-1. And then Nouns Esports defeating DreamHack 2-0. Toon Slim finally defeating Brazil at an in-person stage to cinema. It finally happened. And then Daybreak taking down T3 2-1. Also a pretty big surprise to me. So yeah, some interesting games in round 1. Quarterfinals, I think, went a little more according to not plan, but like a little more as everybody expected. Peru, LG, Orange Juicers, and Revelation were all the 4 teams that had the bye. All 3 of those teams won their matches 2-0, and teams moved on into the semifinals, and then things, went from there. Where Revelation, I think, pulled off a pretty huge upset, 3-0ing the Orange Juicers on stage. So let's talk a little bit about day 2. Any thoughts here overall on day 2 matches, Dupe Snacks?
No. I saw somebody put in chat, Rifta put in chat that OJ Nouns was a wacky match. Of these, I think it might be the most notable.
Yeah.
But I think the excitement really starts in the next in the semifinals.
Right, yeah, and the Peru LG OJ versus Revelation. Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with you there. Yeah, Bridget, how about you? Any thoughts on this round 1 quarterfinals matches?
Yeah, that was definitely like the ones I was watching the most of because my side event was basically during semifinals.
Oh gosh,
so we were all like cocking our necks over like we're like running in our lanes. We're like, okay, I'm not watching right now. I'm watching the stream. Like I need to see what happens really quick. So I really enjoyed a lot of like the round 1 quarterfinals games and just in general on day 2. I like tweeted about this when it was happening, but I saw like more women on stage for day 2 than I think ever seen from a Unite tourney ever, and it just really filled my heart with joy. So I really liked getting to watch like Bees, T3 kind of, I don't know, make those statements on day 2.
Daybreak.
And as well as, Daybreak, yeah, I was just about to say,
Version 1, right? Yeah.
Liz was fucking owning it. I know, I'm sad.
It was
Of
awesome.
course, the V1 stamina game was the one not streamed, and I kept hearing about how good it was. So.
Yeah, well, it was tough. Yeah, so a little bit of like behind the curtain for everybody. Basically, we had enough time in the schedule to cover every game except one in the schedule, and the Stamina version 1 was the one that got cut because both those teams have already qualified for the World Championships. Every other team was kind of fighting for that spot. That's why. So we'll get another chance to see those teams. It is a bummer that apparently it was an electric set.
I know. I'm like, dang it. I love both those teams.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I hope the power surge hasn't hit Bridget as well. I think we might have.
Yeah, we are apparently 11 minutes from each other, so
Oh no,
maybe
no,
it's just
no.
rippling through.
Oh.
Yeah, big shout to Smim Psyche as well. The for the women moment was awesome. It really was, and the fact that it carried through very well through the second day to get us that representation. Us being Pokemon Unite, on broadcast is terrific and something that I think we should all be very proud of and excited about.
It was awesome. 'Cause
Exactly.
I was on stage interviewing Sobi, and I was like, anything you want to like shout out or whatever? She's like, shout out to these people. I was like, anything else you want to say?
I do want to give credit. I was like sitting pretty close to the front row when Sobi was getting that interview, and Smim was right in front of me. And as soon as you were like, anything else? Smim yells, for the women. And she's like, oh, like,
yeah,
yes.
of
I'm like,
course.
Smim, I'm going to give you credit. I don't know if that worked, but good job.
Iconic line. Iconic.
It was so good. Sobi is incredible. She's so nice, and she had the best player picture of the weekend.
My gosh.
Oh yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, I'll try to pull that up at some point here in the show. But yeah, basically every player gets. I think every player, once they make it into day 2, they try to like shuffle them into the backstage, get a player picture so we can have it for the rest of the broadcast. Usually they say, yeah, you can bring a plushie if you want into your picture. And so we went, okay, bet, and had the entire roster of plushies all in the same picture, which was epic. So loved it. Okay, Dupes, next, you said you had thoughts here on our top 4 and Grants, even if you want to jump into that too.
Yeah, I think the way Luminosity dispatched of Peru was very unceremonious.
Yep.
And I feel the same for Revelation versus Juicers. Felt very unceremonious, but in a much different way. It felt like I don't know what the mental was. But the Juicers were it seemed out of sorts. I think the way the semifinals shook out, they were having like a uniquely bad set, and Revelation was playing uniquely good. I think they're like median. OJ probably comes out ahead, but I think they were kind of playing towards the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Regardless, you expect the Juicers to kind of find their footing in a best of 5 and be able to kind of break the flow and then rally back. So credit to Revelation. I mean, they got to do the same draft 3 times in a row. They won with it 3 times in a row. Why switch when you don't have to? And obviously, every game that they don't have to change anything is just them building confidence in what they're doing and what they've got their hands on. And they delivered on that. So, the semifinals was, again, kind of a wallop on each end, one of which expected, the other one not so much. So that's why the semifinal specifically interested me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Overall, I think I was surprised these both ended in a 3-0, obviously, but Peru has got to sort out how to beat LG. Like we've talked about like, Toon or Nowlands' rivalry with Brazil teams in the past and everything. They finally figured it out. But that has been a lineup for quite some time that has been extremely challenging for them. This Peru LG, well, it's hard to call it a rivalry. It's a very one-sided rivalry in kind of years. At this point in time, Peru's got to like finally cross. I don't know how much of it's like a mental block too. You go into this lobby and you're like, I've been here before. So I think that needs to change. However, this OJ, LG, Peru triangle has become kind of interesting. Where OJ are somehow the only team that has found the way to like take matches off LG. LG always beats Peru, and then Peru always beats OJ. So we have created this very interesting triangle, which, I hope we get something like it at Worlds. I hope that they don't play multiple times like last World Championships, but I do hope we get a little bit more there. But how about you, Bridget? Any thoughts here on the conclusion of our NAIC tournament?
Yeah, I must say I wasn't able to lock in as much for the semifinal games, but yeah, it was just like looking over and it's like, oh, they're stomping. Okay, like got it. Like I do feel like Revelation was just on a different level. Like I remember they were in like my friend's group stage and they like lost them in the first round. And I was like, guys, they could win the tournament. Like it's okay. And then they just almost did. So I just feel like they're the kind of team that if they're locked in, it can be a bloodbath, and they definitely showed up for that. And we'll obviously get the chance to show up for that at Worlds. But yeah, it was cool. I am a big fan of Dispenza on Revelation and have known him for a really for years and years and years. And so it's like cool to see like someone I used to scrim against all the time like get that opportunity. So shout out to Dispenza for sure. He was very happy. It was like so pure.
I thought it was awesome when Lunier walked out and did the Blaziken overheat for his player walkout. Thought that was absolutely sick. I love when teams lean into the silly and the goofy on stage. I mean, on our broadcast team, we very much encourage that. So
yes, we do.
Yeah, I really liked for Grands, I loved the Otter and Celestial. I'm like blanking the interview before. Yeah, that was really like adorable actually. I don't know, like the former teammates storyline, and that was my first time getting to see like an in-person Grands on Sunday, and honestly it was like so fun. I know it was early, like obviously wasn't as packed as it gets throughout the day, but I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it being on Sunday, so
yeah. That's
I hope that continues.
The thing with our crowd, it is tough because obviously our stage is on the side and they can't move our stuff to the middle, which is a bit of a bummer. But our crowd was quite full in our section, which it always is for Unite, which is awesome. And our crowd is just so responsive and excited, which is great. Love that about the Unite crowd. Like, you can make a call on commentary. Also, they kind of fixed our mics these last, like, year and a half now, where you can actually hear in the audience the commentary pretty well. So like we make calls to the audience and people cheer and everything. It's great. It's so fun. So thank you so much for everybody for the support, especially if you were there at NAIC or if you were tuning in. It was a blast. Let's talk a little bit about the Pokemon selection for NAIC, because it was actually a really interesting tournament when it came to Pokemon picks and bans and things like that. So let's bring it up. Poker has introduced yet another new format to display this in. So let's take a look. Yeah, there's some cool things. I wanted to bring it up immediately too, because Dextro talked about this in our chat. Holy Armarouge splashing into the metagame.
Oh my god.
26 times, a 23% pick rate. So it got picked, what is that, 16th overall, which, you know, normally we're not going to talk about too much, but an 88.4% win rate on Armarouge. What a nasty pick. I talked to a couple of different people about the Armarouge at the venue. One of them was Toon on Nouns, and they said, he's like, yeah, we scrimmed, we tried Armarouge, we played it for like probably 2 days worth of scrims, and then we're like, yep, this is broken, and we didn't play it again for like a month. Because we were like, yeah, we don't need to test this anymore. This is busted. Let's move along and try other stuff and then potentially hide the Armarouge stat if they could. But yeah, wow, that Pokemon was crazy. One of the best win rates overall in the tournament. Potentially one of the best win rates in a tournament ever. With that many picks, like 26 picks and still having an 88% win rate, that is legend status. Another big surprising was another attacker, Miraidon, all of a sudden is back in a major way. With a 73.68% win rate. So really crazy. Those are the two that like pop off the page to me. How about you, Deuce? Next, we'll talk about any Pokemon that really surprise you, or just like, yep, that makes sense on this graphic.
Snorlax, I think, is the easiest one.
Yeah.
It's such a good defender, and there were so much other things that needed to be banned that it came through, obviously 88 times. So very unsurprised there. Mm-hmm. I think if you look down the list, you'll see a lot of Pokemon that either aren't banned or specifically if they should be banned but are not, are getting picked every single time. So you kind of look at like Suicune, Blaziken, Psyduck. Obviously, the priority of bans were going in other places. Yeah. So that is what it is. So those are just kind of, I think, the expecteds. I think for the unexpecteds, you nailed it really well, which was the Armarouge. Mm-hmm. And the Sword is maybe my other one that I would lean into.
Yeah, Yeah, 20 picks overall. Sword and Serena, both of them doing quite well. That's interesting.
Mhm.
How about you, Bridget?
I definitely agree with Deep Snacks, especially on like the Snorlax of it all. Like tanks are in a very weird place right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is like Snorlax or
End of
no, like
list.
nothing. I thought I was watching like LG's drafts when I was able to like, catch them on stage, especially for grands. If they did not get Snorlax, Slash was not picking a tank. He was playing like
Right.
Mime, or like some games he was playing Hoopa, and Otter was maybe like Suicune or something. Like they were, I noticed they were like, no Snorlax, okay, no tank. So I just think it's really interesting. It's like, yeah, Snorlax is so dominant in that role right now that
Mhm.
you almost have to bend to like totally other things, which is so crazy compared to like how tanks were like I feel like a year ago. It was like every single one of them was broken. So
Yeah.
I think
What a
that's pretty
shift.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. I've just like been, I don't know. I think that role is in an interesting spot right now. But yeah, other than that, armors definitely I was not aware of its game, and now I am. Holy moly, it looked horrifying. So
Yeah.
it was pretty exciting to watch it unfold.
So strong, so
One
strong.
thing I do want to just jump in and say, the
Yeah.
chat is talking about it, and it's something that Spraggles and I talked about on broadcast, and something I actually talked to some of the players after the event about, and that's Lapras specifically.
Uh-huh.
I think outside of like Bruv, it kind of looked like doo-doo water. And I'm not too sure what really the thought process was with Lapras specifically. I mean, I know you can use its Unite move, kind of circle around, chase down a ranged attacker, put pressure in the back line, kind of do that type of stuff. So, like in practice, or I guess in theory, I understand what the approach was, but in practice, it did not really develop that way in any sort of meaningful scenario,
Hmm.
except for when Bruv was playing it, which it felt like then it was like, oh, well, of course, everybody should be picking this. Like it,
Yeah.
so, and I don't think it's that. Maybe it's how they were positioning around it, or the moments in which they were using Lapras specifically. I'd have to go back and watch to kind of dissect that. But Lapras kind of stuck out to me as a bit of a walnut.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting because yeah, I think people in chat are mentioning it. I think it's on paper, it's the Inteleon answer. You talked about like its flanking potential, like in big team fights and everything. I think that creates kind of a Ho-Oh problem
Mm-hmm.
where you don't have an engagement tank anymore. Where Lapras in lane actually kind of can be. It does decent damage in the early game. And it heals itself so well that you can kind of get up in the enemy's face and be aggressive. You don't have great last hit secure. It's fine. But you could at least play for damage in the early game. In the late game, if you want to set up a big Lapras play, you often have to kind of leave your team and sort of take the role of a top laner, and play off lane and try to set up some of these bigger moments. And God forbid you don't set it up, and it becomes an entirely useless flank. It's difficult to pull off. So I think, I don't know. There's the optimistic side of it is like maybe we're just scratching the surface and we're going to see more mastery, like more Bruv level play of it eventually, and it will slowly climb in win rate. But to me, I don't like the theory of it. If I was coaching a team, I would say let's leave that one on the back burner. Let's not pick Blastoise, and it's 31% win rate, but
Oof, yeah.
let's leave that one alone. Yeah, people saying, yeah, Crustle, unfortunately, Rock Tomb, just not great. But I do agree with Dextro. I'm kind of shocked at the lack of Trevenant, comparatively. Mamoswine makes sense, but kind of only makes sense in a certain comps. But I do like that teams are picking up more Duck Tank, with the Psyduck and stuff. Yeah, a couple other things. I think if you are playing the prediction games for any of these tournaments that we play here on this podcast, Zoroark and Hoopa stay as some of the safest win rate picks ever, at any in-person event. They're both so incredibly strong at teams that are good at using them, and hence we see that. Is Celestial in our chat talking about how he's a little flabbergasted that Buzzwole only had a 38% win rate? It is kind of funny, since he went 5-0 on that Pokemon, but yeah. Yeah, who knows? Okay, let's talk about the bans really fast, and then we'll move along here. So, most banned Pokemon, Blissey, leading the way here at a 63% ban rate, 70 total bans on Blissey. We kind of scale down from there. Suicune at 66, Blaziken at 47, and then after that is a steep drop-off. So the big three being Blissey, Suicune, and Blaziken, and then Psyduck, Inteleon, and Leafeon all kind of being tied for that 4th spot. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. It certainly makes sense to the West. It'll get really interesting when we start talking about the East.
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
I do want to say I have our predictions from our pre-show, which I didn't have time to make the graphic, but I was just kind of like curious how we did. And we all three guessed the top 3 banned Mons correctly.
Whoa.
So we said
nice.
Blissey, Doomsack said Suicune, and I had Blaziken. So
nice. Go
we
us.
got all 3. I know. We have such big brains.
How do we do it pick rate?
You guys won. You guys both said Snorlax. I said Mew. That was bad.
I mean, top half of the bracket. yeah.
Thank you for
top
the
11.
pity
Top
point.
11. Yeah. Not terrible.
Yeah, surely. And then for win rate, Zoinks, you had Intel.
Okay.
Snacks had Mew, and I had Luca. I thought people were gonna like Luca more, but what do I know?
So I technically won, but none of us got even close to Armorage numbers.
No.
No, I didn't get close to any numbers. What is happening here?
Yeah, Mew was fraudulent for us.
That was definitely a red herring maneuver.
it's a not yet.
Yeah.
Pick it again for Worlds. Trust.
Yeah, definitely. Next time.
Okay, all right. Well, believe it or not, folks, we still have another tournament to talk about. So let's talk about the Pokemon. Why am I leading with Pokemon? PJCS. So the Japanese, essentially regional tournament. Obviously, we talked a lot about how Fennel didn't even qualify for this event. That was kind of alarming. This tournament began with Zeta Division, by far the tournament favorite, getting 2-1 in the first round of the quarterfinal. And I think there was a decent amount of panic being sent out in waves. I was like, if Zeta also doesn't make Worlds, I'm not going. You know what? I'm not gonna do it.
You did say that.
You're a liar. The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Yeah. I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. I go or Zeta goes. Yeah.
You give them your spot.
Yeah, so anyway, a really interesting tournament. We're not going to recap the entire thing, but just to fill in people who are listening just in the audio fashion, the top 3 teams out of this tournament qualified for the World Championships, so that means there will be 4 total Japanese teams at Worlds. So those teams were Reject, my boys, Zeta Division, and QT Dig. All 3 of those squads qualified. I think Reject and Zeta Division people are quite familiar with, but if we want to go under the roster of QT Dig, there's a lot of players on this team. Well, specifically 2 that a lot of people are familiar with. Both Sweet and Bacon have both made the World Championships in multiple tournaments before. So, return members for Japan, but just on kind of a new looking roster. And with a win over Zeta Division and a win over Axes, I think they made a pretty big splash. The only teams they lost to ended up being Reject and then Zeta Division on the run back, but still pretty wild tournament. Oh yeah, and I by the way, Mike was asking about this in chat. I did want to give this a shout out. Mike on Twitter, I believe you can find them at that same @ but did make a really cool NAIC recap document. You can check it out on Twitter. They also had like an interview, I think, with Rixelpick in there as well. So a player interview, event recap. It was really, really cool. So make sure to go check that out. I will put it into the show notes of the episode. But okay, continuing about PJCS. Yeah, pretty wild tournament. I know this was at insane hours for us. I unfortunately didn't do a co-stream, but I think all 3 of us kind of tuned in here and there to the event, I think. Bridget, how much of it did you get to watch, and what'd you think of the event?
I actually tried to watch a pretty good amount.
Cool.
I like definitely more of the earlier bracket. I feel like I missed kind of like the losers finals and grands for the most part, but I was watching, I feel like it was started out as, I think, Toon and Ender watching it, and then I think on the second night it turned into like a pseudo TTV watch party, and Lutano and Otter joined, and I was like, oh my god, it's just like the old days. It was very adorable. So,
I was watching the same one.
Yeah, it was so fun. I loved that they did that. Shout out all of them for giving the content that Zoinks didn't. So
okay, yeah,
it was really cool. I really liked watching Axis run. Zeta was giving me a heart attack going into the losers bracket immediately. I was like, this is too stressful. I liked Scars too. I think I really only watched them play Axis, but they were pretty fun to watch.
Cool.
Was it Axis who was doing like score comp and was being like evil? Yeah, they were evil, but really fun to watch. It was a really good tournament, and I know there were like a couple watch parties going on. If you guys are interested in this, the QT dig of it all was definitely crazy too. I was kind of shocked at how many upsets they were able to pull off.
Yeah, they were crushing it. Very fun team to watch. And yes, I know I didn't do a co-stream, but VOD review streams will be incoming in the very near future. I got to make power rankings after all, so there's going to be a whole lot of those coming up in the weeks to come. Dupe Snacks, though, how much did you get to see, and what are your overall thoughts on Japan?
What did I get to see? I got to watch pretty much most of day 2
cool.
after the fact, so I was just kind of, it was on like 2x speed. I just kind of wanted to get a feeling for the drafts and just overall kind of how tight the games were. I legitimately thought Suicune had a game-breaking bug and was globally banned for this event.
Literally!
Come to find out, they don't like it. So if that's the energy they're bringing to Worlds, I don't know what to tell you. That character is fucking bonkers. I don't know. In its current iteration, it is Banana Land. So like, maybe they have a Giga Soul Read that is just going to get nerfed into the floor, so they don't want to...
I like this hat. I like this tinfoil hat theory.
This is nerfed into the floor, so they don't want to spend time with it or something. But if that Pokemon is not touched, and they walk into Worlds and don't ban the thing like they were doing in this tournament, that is... that's silly. That's just silly.
It's a little silly.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just start talking about the Pokemon selection, because I think that is kind of the main story for Japan. It is wild. Okay, so we are taking a look at pick rate. You have to go to the 25th most Pokemon to see where Suicune lands on the graphic, with 5 picks overall in the tournament with a 40% win rate. Shocking, to say the least. Hoopa, 4 total times in the tournament with a 0% win rate.
This is psycho shit. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at here.
I didn't realize it was this crazy until we literally looked at the NAIC and this back to back. And
to be fair, I think Hoopa was banned infinite times though, right?
Let's take a look at the... Wait, am I looking at ban rate? No, this is pick rate.
That's pick rate.
And then this is bans 12 times.
So it seems, I mean, top
Look
3.
Look at the ban rate on Clefable.
They hate, they were playing Clef before it was buffed. They hate it.
It's too good. It's too good.
It's broken.
Apparently.
I actually think it's incredibly viable. I think it was before. I think with its buffs, it's even more so. So I'm not hating on Clefable. I think banning, I don't know. Let's just pick a couple Pokemon randomly. I think banning Clefable over, let's say, something like Suicune is psychotic. It is. I don't know how to parse that out, and I would like a Japanese tutorial on how they view the game to understand what the hell I'm looking at here.
I know, man. It is.
It's like, look at Bliss! Look at Blissey 7 times!
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Sableye is way more broken.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is a Dupe Snacks region. Like, look at this entire bottom half of the graphic. Sableye, Comfey, Psyduck, Hoopa. Like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. Okay, let's take a look back at the pick rates, because we'll get some more stats there. Snorlax state remains the same at a 75% pick rate, but only a 44% win rate. Blaziken doing extremely well here in this region. Inteleon around the same in both the NAIC and PJCS, which is kind of interesting. Inteleon landing right at that same spot. we have seen Japan picking up a lot more Leafeon ever since Zeta Division has just been crushing with it. Also, reminder, there was a lot less games in this event than NAIC, of course. And 2, a lot of Zeta Division games. Because they went 2-1 in a lot of the series and went down to the losers bracket immediately. So had the longest run. So a lot of these numbers are Zeta numbers, to be fair. You can see that in this next graphic because Poker does include the MVPs, like who got MVP awarded the most, which 4 of the members are Zeta Division, which funny.
Balanced team.
Great. Exactly. But anyway, yeah, interesting pick. So I think the surprising part is the low numbers. Shout out to Charizard with the 3 times picked with a 66.67% win rate. It tends to be just a lot of people's Zoroark counter. Still seems fine at that, I guess. Doesn't do a whole lot more than just doing that, though. I feel like it's fine at a Comfey comps too, but whatever. Okay, Lucario picked more times. Well, actually, technically not. Picked more percentage rate in PJCS. However, having kind of a similar win rate, not doing great. Mew a little bit better on the win rate. But yeah, no crazy standouts. I guess Clefable. Maybe that ban rate is correct. 66.67% win rate on Clefable.
Yeah, you know, Smim and Dextro, I think, are kind of going back and forth on our chat here. They, you know, teams picking Clefable, just ball up at Ray, and the easiest line after is if you just play Suicune, you kind of destroy that strategy because you put them in the Ice Age, and then everybody just dumpsters the frozen Pokemon in the middle. Like I have no words, dude. It's like I don't know what this game is. What are we doing?
I would love to read like a think piece on. The Suicune.
Yeah, so
but there's so many other things, right? Like Psyduck came through a ton of times, and has a decent winner. Blissey, like all of our apparently our approach on support is infinitely different than Japan's, which, you know, that's what we have the World Championships for, right? Is to shake out who actually has the more critical understanding of this game. And there is a very real world where we are just very wrong, and we're gonna be, you know, flashing back to this moment. Everybody's like, you know who the psycho one was? Dupe Snacks, you're an idiot. How did
I don't know.
I can't wait.
I will not join that bandwagon. I
feel pretty safe. I feel pretty safe, Zoinks. I'm not gonna lie. I feel pretty safe.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I saw Dexter mention this in chat too. I think Dodrio definitely one of the big stories of this tournament. Made top 4 on the pick rate alone. That's pretty surprising. 60% win rate, pretty easy to do. There's no Suicune running around, maybe. Which is funny. Which it is hilarious because Aegislash, Dodrio, and Blaziken all making the top. I was asking myself, what is Japan playing top lane if Lucario, Garchomp, and Zacian are doing so poorly? Garchomp and Zacian at 30% win rate on both of them. Like, that is remarkably low. So, and yeah, Lapras not even making the graphic. Interesting. Maybe they do know something we don't.
Yeah, no Lapras.
No Lapras. Either way, there's a lot to be discovered, I think, in some VOD reviews incoming in the near future. I think it'll be very fun. And of course, the World Championships are going to be super hype after that too. So, yeah. Okay. I think we did it.
We did it.
I think we did it.
Honestly,
podcast.
Faster than I thought we would.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
was pretty good.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Only an hour and a half. We kind of crushed. Obviously, there's a lot more we can be talking about. We talked about it in the pre-show a little bit. Like, obviously, the anniversary is coming up very soon. We know those Pokemon. We now know their move kits, so we'll talk more about that in the future. There's been a lot of like community ambassador news and stuff like that, so we'll probably discuss things like that. The future of next season does not just include the Unite Championship Series format. We got to talk about 500 point mode again and things like that. So there's a lot to be talked. Yeah, there's a lot to be talked about. But those we're all going to save for future episodes. So if you are watching this on YouTube, what we want to know by far the most in the comments is Japan right or are they wrong? Because we all think Suicune's pretty good.
Specifically about Suicune.
Yes.
We need to be very clear.
Yeah. They're on to something
right
with
or wrong about Suicune?
But Suicune, we need the answer.
Put it in the comments.
Yes.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
YouTube.
There you go.
I've heard people say that, so it
correct.
must be right.
I am just repeating it, but I'm pretty sure it's correct. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you everybody so much for joining us. Let's close out here. Dupe Snacks, anything to shout out before we go?
Follow at Big Bridget on Twitter.
Bridget, how about you?
I think Zoix and I are both going to be help casting Underdunk this week on Kyle's channel, perhaps. I'm not sure what channel.
Yes. Yes, I believe it is on Kyle's
Probably
channel.
Kyle, Steel Agent Kyle. So if you're hanging around on Thursday night, definitely sign up or pop in. It should be pretty fun. I actually really like this meta right now. It's very interesting.
It's fun. I like playing it. I like casting it. I'm in a pretty good spot. It's fun right now. Okay, big shout out I wanted to give for the homie, the content cowboy, Spraggles. Is on the Gotta Catch 'Em All game show, which is so cool, by the way. I don't know if some people missed this. We promoted a few times over NAIC. This is a very cool, it is a call-in show that a bunch of people have like talked about being involved with it, by the way. One of the things is that like Brian David Gilbert is a part of it, who's like a huge face in the like gaming sphere. You might know him from his like stuff on College Humor or back when he was on Polygon. What a lot of Pokemon fans might know is he's the guy who made the new Pokerap with all 1,000 Pokemon in it, which was awesome. Anyway, he's hosting this show. Spraggles is going to be on it. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait to watch it. I don't know much about it, but it sounds great. So please go tune in. I'll be there. And it's on the official Pokemon channel, which is so cool. So go check it out. I think that'll be really sweet. You know, it's got the cowboy in it, so I think it'll be great no matter what.
And that's on Friday?
That is on Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be live
2 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Awesome. Okay, well, I think that's it. We'll be back next week with more talks about, and if we get more news, we'll talk about it then. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We'll see y'all next time. We love you, Dunkheads. Goodbye.
Bye.
Dunkheads? Is that...